Well, it's just great to have you here. And I want to introduce myself. I might be starting a little early. I know not everybody's joined us yet, but my name is Karna Hauk, and I am a Bethel member for Bethel Lutheran Church in Northfield. I know there might be a couple people here from outside of our congregation. We've been trying to plug this through Facebook and trying to encourage people to show up. It is a little bit early in the world of COVID. We're not getting up as early, especially on the weekends, it seems. Um, but I think there'll be more people joining us. So we'll get started, and I'll share just a little bit about what we're doing. I'm just going to share this slide and then hand it off to Amy, and we'll kind of go back and forth. Amy Narvison and I are basically hosting a 4-week session called How Can I Help in a World of Need? We're hosting this for 4 Sundays. The first Sunday actually was November 22nd when we had a local organization called the Community Action Center join us. Scott Wapata and Lisa Percy shared what's going on in Northfield and how the needs have grown through our pandemic times and what some of those needs are. So it was really a wonderfully informative experience. If you did not have a chance to attend that session, it is recorded and you can go to the link that you see in the chat that is for the Alternative Giving Fair page on the Bethel Lutheran Church website. So if you want to check that out, we have our last 2 sessions from November 22nd and November 29th recorded for you to watch and listen to and learn from. So take advantage of that. I'm going to go back and watch the 22nd because I feel like I just want to really understand the needs of our community and figure out, how I can plug in and help. Last week we talked about plugging in. Amy and I shared quite a bit about what inspired us to start the Alternative Giving Fair at Bethel, which is in its 12th year, and we can't believe it. We've raised over $100,000 now, and we are really proud of just being a part of this outreach program. It's just a great thing to introduce at this time of year when we are thinking a lot about how we can support and love up our loved ones. It's a great time to be reaching out beyond the needs of our own families and looking at what the real, true, authentic needs are in the world. And we're trying to take back Christmas. We're trying to go through some Advent conspiracy here and readjust ourselves a little bit. We're off base a little, our American culture with this $1 trillion spending that we do during the month of December, people, or throughout the year, but for the purpose of giving at Christmas and really gaining for ourselves ultimately. And so we are encouraging people to think differently. We're really excited that Matt Gimsey's here. He's going to be sharing an ending poem today. We're really excited about his poem that he's sharing, as well as a sculpture. He's going to be interactive with us. So we're really thrilled to have him here as always. And I am going to hope that I can pass to the next slide, which sometimes I can't do. So now I'm escaping. There it is. Okay, so Amy, you can take over.
All right. So I am Amy Narvison. I'm a member at Bethel. Have been for the last, I don't know how many years, 13 maybe. Yes, as Karna said, Karna and I have been doing this for the last 12 years. We're in our 12th year of the Alternative Giving Fair. And because of COVID, we've had to shift, and now we're able to do this, which is really quite exciting, doing this 4-part series. And so we're on week 3 of this 4-part series of alternative giving. And in a moment, Karna is going to introduce our guest today. But first, I just wanted to highlight a little bit and give you a little bit of information about next week. Next week, December 13th, we have Paige Nagel from Charity Water, who she's a representative from Charity Water. And their goal, Charity Waters, is that they believe every single person should have clean and safe water. And 1 in 10 people lack access to clean water, and they're on a mission to change that. So since 2006, Charity Water has funded over 44,000 water projects for more than 10 million people around the world. And they partner with experienced local organizations to build sustainable community-owned water projects. And they prove every single water project with GPS coordinates. So if you give money to a well or you purchase a well, you can go on, they'll give you a link, and you can sometimes, on a lot of them, they'll have a video and you can kind of see the well and all the stats and how the well's working. So, but Charity Water's off to a great start, but there's still 785 million people around the world that lack access to clean water. So, and one thing we really like about this organization is 100% of the money you give to Charity Water, 100% of that money goes to a well, because they rely on private donors to cover their operating costs. So your donation, 100% of it goes to wells and to help people with get access to clean water. And you'll see right here on this slide, there's a picture of a box of books, and I have that box sitting in my house right now. I've got books. This book is called Thirst, and it's by Scott Harrison, and he is the CEO and founder of Charity Water. He was listed on the list of 40 under 40, and he's been written up in Forbes, and just because of his business model and what he's done. So I've got available these books available. I've got a limited number. I think I've got like 20. So if you are interested, you can write something in the chat, say I'd like a book, and we can get away. I can leave it at church and put your name on it, and you can get that. So if you want to read that before next week, or to start it at least before next week when Paige comes and talks about Charity Water.
And they're free. The books are free, just so you all know.
Yes, and if you're one of the first requests, you'll get an autographed one. Some of them are autographed by Scott, so if that's exciting to you. But yes, so they're free access to those. So, and I've started reading it, and it tells a story and just what the company's doing. So it's pretty great. And so with the Alternative Giving Fair, you should have gotten your booklet in the mail along with the shopping list. And so if you look through that, the booklet corresponds with the shopping list, and in the booklet it just explains in more detail the projects that are on this shopping list, if you can see that. And look through those, and we ask you to prayerfully consider donating money to help people around the world, and even right here in Minnesota, we've got some local projects on there that you can give to. And you fill out the shopping list, you can total that up, write a check, one check to Bethel, and then we sort all that money and make sure that money goes to what you designated, your designated project that you donated to. But we just want to make it really easy for you. So one check will, and if you gave to 7 different projects, it's just one check and we'll get it to the money to those projects. And you can mail it to Bethel, or you can drop it off at Bethel right in the vestibule. Those doors are unlocked. Right when you walk into the right, you'll see a table, the Alternative Giving Fair table. And right next to that on the left, there's shelves, and there's a gray bin that says Alternative Giving Fair, and you could drop your envelope and check and shopping list in there also. If you go and you want to get the inserts that say this gift was given in your honor, those are also right in the vestibule. We've kind of got them in a little index folder, file folder, and you can just look through those and take the inserts that you need, that you're giving, and there's complimentary gift cards, one gift card for each project you give to. Those are available in the vestibule. If you just want to mail it and you don't want to go to church, but you want the inserts, on the back of the booklet is my email address, and you can email me and say, I need a insert for the medicine in Burma and the child in India and the books in Vietnam, or whatever it is, and I will email you a PDF of those inserts so you can get them that way if you just don't want to go out and about. So trying to make it very easy for you to give and get what you get those inserts that you and cards that you want. So A couple other things just to highlight on our shopping list. One of the organizations we always have, I think we've had every year for the last 12 years, is ELCA Good Gifts. And you'll usually see Clark Carey down there in when we're, on Sundays, usually in the narthex, and he's there with his ornaments, and he knows a lot of information about ELCA Good Gifts, but they're really popular. People like to give chicks and bees and pigs. And so this year we've got chicks, bees, pigs, goats, roosters, and a cow. If you are someone who's been giving many years and you always like the little ornaments that Clark has available, he has some, but not as many as he usually has. But if you would like those, once again, email me and I will hook you up, connect you with Clark, and you can get those ornaments. I've already have done that for a few people. So, but we also have just inserts in the vestibule for those also. You don't need to, if you give to a goat, I can give you an insert, or you can try to get the ornament from Clark. And I'm going to turn it over to Karna so she can talk a little bit about Lutheran Partners and Global Ministry and introduce our special guest.
Sounds good. So thanks, Amy. So I wanted to also mention, if anybody's here that is not in Northfield, you can tap on the link that's in the chat currently for the Alternative Giving Fair. There is a connection to that catalog that Amy was just referring to in the back of the catalog. Like she said, has the address for Bethel Lutheran Church. You can just tap on that website for the catalog and check out the catalog and grab that address. I would just print off the shopping list, the Alternative Giving Fair shopping list, fill it out and send it in your own envelope. We're delighted to have everyone participate. Obviously, we're trying to once again try to raise between $10,000 and $12,000 this year. So fingers crossed, and spread the word, please. Let others know. Lutheran Partners in Global Ministry. This is an organization that's very close to my heart. It's an organization that was started and founded by my very own parents, who are here with us today, Gordon and Betty Olson. They had an incredible vision for wanting to serve and help in the world, as inspired by my brother, who I shared a little bit last week about, and I know Dan is going to share a little bit about Tim as well, but he was doing work in Africa and lost his life while he was there at the age of 24. And my parents, instead of being destroyed by this, which is, we all understand, maybe not in person, but we all understand that the idea of losing a child could literally destroy you. And instead of allowing this sadness and this devastating experience to destroy them, they came together. They became stronger. They used their resources and their passion and their joy for life to help others and be inspired by what they saw through my brother's eyes. So they started this organization, and it's in its 25th year. And so it's a pretty big year for LPGM this year. It's a great year for us to be highlighting and having our special guest with us today. You can see their vision. LPGM envisions a world where relationships transform boundaries and where all people have the resources and opportunities they need to thrive. Their mission, LPGM provides access to quality education for people at the margins, especially women and girls. We work together with global partners to listen, respond, and bear witness to local needs and priorities. And then how LPGM does it, they focus on 4 main ways to help those in need: partnerships, education, empowerment, and travel. We are specifically focused on supporting particular parts of what they do. So every year I contact Dan or someone at LPGM to help me figure out what would be the best ways to support LPGM through our Alternative Giving Fair this year. And so these are some standbys where we encourage people to sponsor a child, whether it's to sponsor a child through $30 a month or $360 as a year-long, a one-time payment. We've been sponsoring kids for years, my husband and I, and we've seen kids all the way through from beginning to end. We had this amazing opportunity to go to India and meet these kids. And it's just a powerful experience to partner and help a child really fulfill all the needs that they would possibly have, whether it's food, medical care, clothing, and all of the things that they need for their education. We've been supporting kids, and it feels incredibly great to be able to do that. We've typically had a 4-month scholarship for a 12th grade student to help them finish school. This year, there's a couple. We're encouraging people to give $14 for a family in India that provides a COVID kit, food and sanitizer. We're also encouraging through education to provide food for teachers and COVID kits for students through their outdoor education program to make sure they have the supplies that they need to sustain themselves through this very challenging time. Healthcare for a student in India. This is providing healthcare checkups and vaccines for one student in India, so it's literally only $2. You could donate or encourage your families, grandchildren, kids to donate this small amount to help a child. They also have a special program in Tanzania where they're providing safe room and board for a girl. So $22 provides safe room and board for 1 week. And so we have a lot of wonderful giving opportunities. Again, this is what our shopping list looks like that you would print off and fill out and send in with your check. And you'll see some of those LPGM projects on that shopping list. So at this point, I would like to just introduce Dan. We're so thrilled to have Dan here. Dan is the executive director of LPGM, and he is a Lutheran pastor. As you can see, he bakes bread, and he is definitely focused on living thoughtfully and faithfully. I just started following him on Twitter, but just to see what he reposts is really cool. I think Dan is, as it says here, passionate about helping people see where God is at work in the world. It says with experience in international development and nonprofit communications, Dan focuses on helping create the most meaningful outcomes or impact. He joined LPGM in August of 2017. So Dan, thank you so much for being with us, and we're thrilled to have you. And I'm going to stop sharing so that you can start sharing.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be here as well. I recognize a number of faces in this crew and recognize even more names of many of you who are sponsors or donors to LPGM, and it's really a pleasure to be able to meet you. I would love, as I'm sure every one of us would, to be face-to-face in person, but this works as well. And want to say a big thank you to Karna and Amy for setting up this alternative giving fair for all these years. I know that it has been a huge gift to LPGM every year. And to think differently this year too is really important, as we all need alternatives and things to be hopeful about in this world as well. I'll also just add, since you're all in Northfield, that I'm also a St. Olaf graduate, a third generation Ole. And so Northfield is near and dear to my heart as well. And it's always a pleasure to connect with Bethel. So I will share my screen here and step in. I'll just do this. So Karna mentioned her brother, and she said that she has shared this story, but LPGM all really began because of Tim Olson. I won't tell the entire story because many of you have probably heard it, but at 24, Tim was an ambitious, idealistic young man who dreamed of studying architecture at the Harvard School of Design. But before heading to Harvard, he decided he wanted to give back and do a service project. He felt a call to do something, and he reached out to a number of places, but eventually got in touch with an architect in Minneapolis named Paul Bertelson. And Paul is an architect who has run the nonprofit called MSADA, who does architecture in developing countries all around the world. Paul is an amazing person and has been working hard for decades, and is, while he's officially retired, I think is still working hard. And Paul said, you know, I have this project in Central African Republic that I need a supervisor on the construction of this church project through the ELCA and the Lutheran Church in Central African Republic. And, you know, Tim said he was looking for an adventure. And so after prayer and thought, he decided to leave for Bangui, the capital of the Central African Republic. He arrived there in June of 1991 to supervise the construction of this church building. And 5 months later was randomly, tragically shot and killed in a remote roadside robbery gone wrong. His college girlfriend, who was visiting him in Central Africa, was in the car with him. She held his head in her lap and frantically told him how much he was loved as they prayed together the Lord's Prayer. As many times as I have told this story, I still get choked up telling it because it's such a tragedy. And it's unbelievable what has become of this story. Gordy and Betty, Tim's parents, and Karna learned of his death the night before Thanksgiving that year. So I can only imagine the heart-wrenching pain that likely was felt by them. And the fact that they were able to take that horrible tragedy and turn it into something amazing is a testament, I think, to them, but especially to how God is at work in the world. Karna called out that line in my own bio, and I really do feel like my calling has been to help people see where God is already at work in the world. Because at Lutheran Partners, we deeply believe, and as a Lutheran pastor myself, I deeply believe that we don't bring Jesus or God anywhere. God is already at work. And we are called then to witness to how God is already working in all of these places where we get to partner and meet God's other children and God's creation out in the world. And it is an amazing opportunity. So these are the countries where LPGM is currently working. There have been many more than this in the past 25 years, including Argentina and Palestine, Slovakia. I won't even be able to name them all, Madagascar. But we are currently working in the Central African Republic still, in Tanzania, in Guatemala, and in India. Now, today I'm going to focus mostly on India because I wanted to just share a couple of stories about what this work represents and what it looks like that you support. I'm going to tell stories about some students who have been sponsored through LPGM and what that sponsorship means to them. This work looks different in every country because the context in every country is different. But the real threads are that LPGM is called to listen to the voices of the people that we serve and our partners, to hear their stories, to hear the context, to hear where God is at work in their lives, to then respond in the most appropriate way possible with the greatest impact that we can possibly have. And then to bear witness. All three of those words, those terms are in our mission statement. And I think those are really central to who we are, that we listen, respond, and bear witness. And bear witness, I think for me, means telling their stories and sharing how we are all wrapped up in this one world together, that we are all loved by God and created and loved and redeemed by Jesus. That is the real grace of this work and the shared mission that we have. So let me just turn to a couple quick stories. This is Vasuki. Vasuki, when she entered the school in southern India, she goes to Ceylon boarding home. Siloam is a large all-girls boarding home. I know some of you have been there and have seen it firsthand. There's about 700 girls between the age of 5 and 18 at Siloam. And Vasuki, when she first arrived, she came to Siloam because her mother had to move to a neighboring state in India to find work. This is a very common story of why these students attend boarding schools rather than their local village school. Many of their parents are poor. They have to travel around to find work. And so having a boarding school where their kids can go and have a sense of stability is extremely important for their long-term education. And as a single mother, and because of the demands of her job, she couldn't bring Vasuki with her. So for a while, Vasuki lived with her grandmother, but when she came to school as a first standard student, she fell in love with it. She told us just before their Christmas break, and all these schools are run by the Arcot Lutheran Church, which is a small Lutheran church body, Indian church body run by Indian people. She came to us with the biggest smile on her face and just talked about how she didn't even want to go home because she had found all of these sisters at Siloam. She had just loved it so much. Vasuki's parents, her family are Dalit. Dalit is the term in the Indian caste system that refers to the people on the lowest rung. Technically, they don't even have a caste or a varna in the Hindu system. It's a group of people where the term Dalit comes from the Sanskrit word meaning crushed or oppressed. If you ever go to an Indian restaurant and order dal, the crushed lentils, it's the same root word of that. And so Dalit used to be called untouchable people. And the Dalit is a term that they have taken on as a community themselves to say, this is who we are. We are not untouchable. And it's amazing actually talking to the leaders of the Arcot Lutheran Church, who many are Dalit themselves, to hear their stories and the stories for generations in southern India among Dalit people of faith. And when they talk about what it means to them that we believe in a God who not only comes to earth as many Hindu gods do, but actually comes to people and says, this is my body given for you, and this is my blood shed for you, and offers them, the untouchable people, a taste of his body and blood, that it is an incredible, eye-opening, life-changing experience for them. Because in the caste system, they are considered so unclean that high caste people won't touch them or even walk on the same side of the road as them. And so it is an amazing gift. Vasuki would face a life of potential hardship because of how and where she was born, being a Dalit girl. But education provides her an opportunity to change that. And education is one of the most powerful ways that we can do that. Fast forward a few years and we would meet Rajaswari. Rajaswari is also a Dalit female and poor. Many people say that Dalit women are thrice oppressed because they are Dalit, they're female, and they're poor. And they face so many obstacles. When Rajaswari was 15, she had just finished her 10th standard exam. This is an exam that all 10th standard, essentially 10th graders across the country take. And depending on how you do, it allows you to go on to 11th and 12th standard. If you are unable to pass that exam, then you are done with high school, and you can go on to a vocational school, but your prospects of going on to a 4-year college or university are pretty slim. But when Rajaswari had finished her 10th standard exam, she was feeling good. She felt like she had done a really good job. She loved her program at a boarding school called Melpetampakam, and she went home for the summer break. And their summer is in our spring, but the school year ends usually in the exams end at the end of March, and then people will go home for a few months after that. And she was riding high. She was excited, feeling good about coming back for 11th and 12th standard. And when she got home, like many young women of this age, she found out that her parents had arranged a marriage for her and that they wouldn't be sending her back to school the following year. Child marriage is actually outlawed in India before people turn 18, but still across India, it is incredibly common. More than a quarter of Indian girls in recent statistics are still married by the time they turn 18. And so it is incredibly common. And Rajaswari was devastated to hear this news. She pleaded with her parents saying, I want to study, I want to complete my education. But because of the economic reality that her parents faced, because of cultural things that they felt pressure that this is an opportunity for her to get married, they wouldn't give in. And even relatives and friends tried intervening with her parents, but they had already spent a significant amount of money arranging the marriage, and they wouldn't listen. Rajaswari, frankly, even considered suicide at one point. But finally, an uncle of hers who knew the power of educating young women came to the boarding home and interceded, and the staff at the boarding home, together with this uncle, went to the local police to report that this was an unwanted marriage, that they can't be forcing this young woman into a marriage that she doesn't want. And because of sponsor support, Rajaswari was able to come back to school and has now graduated from 12th standard. It is just the power of education and the power of a community of people that help support young women like this. And Malini graduated in 2006. She was also a Dalit poor female growing up, also went to Melpetampakam. But now Malini has her bachelor's degree in electrical and communication engineering. She works as a village administrative officer in her hometown. And recently she came back to speak to all of the students at her alma mater at Melpetampakam and tell them what an important part of her life this school has been. That being sponsored, having the opportunity to go to school, changed the direction of her life and made her able to pursue things that she wouldn't have been able to pursue otherwise. And she wrote a handwritten letter that was sent to us that said, I really want to say thank you for the support of Melpetampakam and my sponsors. They lightened my family's financial burden, which allowed me to focus more on my successful academic career. Without your support, I would not have been able to finish my academics and reach my goals. Thank you so much for all you've done for me. I will always be grateful to you all. I really think that just these three really brief stories is a tiny little window into the power of education. The power that education can provide for boys and girls. Many of you may sponsor boys, and boys' education is also extremely important. But in particular, the education of girls can change the world. And I truly believe that. I want to share just a couple of statistics that from global studies that back this up. One is that childbirth is the #1 cause of death for girls between the ages of 15 and 19 around the world. That is a horrible tragedy that so many young women are still getting married early, getting pregnant early, and therefore facing early childbirth. I once had a doctor help me answer the question of why this happens. Why are young women so at risk? And he talked about the risks at sort of either end of the age spectrum of childbirth. That I know when when my spouse was pregnant at the age of 35, she was termed a geriatric pregnancy. Um, but as women get older, the number of complications can increase, and on the young end, complications are also really high. And for many of these young women who live in countries where the infrastructure and support is not nearly as strong as in places like the United States, it causes this high rank of childbirth. It's the #1 cause of death for girls between 15 and 19. But for girls who attend secondary school, child marriage decreases 3 times. And so that correlation right there is a huge step forward in reducing unwanted childbirth, early marriage. We talked to so many women, young Maasai women in Tanzania, young Kekchi Maya women in Guatemala, the Dalit women in India, who feel trapped in systems where they feel social pressure or family pressure to get married and start a family early, but they so desperately want to delay that so that they can stay in school, they can pursue a career, they can go into teaching or nursing or architecture, things that, you know, whatever they are passionate about and want to continue to pursue. And secondary education gives them that opportunity. Now, this one I think is extremely interesting, that educating girls is the 6th most effective way to reverse climate change. That comes from a study done by a group of scientists called Drawdown that lists sort of the 100 most effective ways to reverse climate change and global warming. And educating girls is #6 on that list. That is largely because of the way that delaying marriage educating girls delays marriage. It reduces family size, the number of resources that are used, and the population growth. Then we see a direct correlation between the amount of education, or sorry, I should say an inverse correlation between the amount of education that a family has and the size of their family. And so educating girls not only benefits them as individuals, but it has these global ramifications as well. And a child is 50% more likely to live past the age of 5 if her mother can read. That statistic is stark to me as well. That this is a statistic. Educating women is something that gets passed on from generation to generation. That mothers who can read are better educated, have more resources at their fingertips, and pass that education on to their parents. I don't have this statistic up here, but it's tied very closely to the fact that we know that typically children go at least up to the level of education that their parents had, and likely beyond it. And so the longer that we can educate young women, that's an education that they're going to pass on to their daughters and sons, who will then go above and beyond that even as well. So Vasuki, Rajaswari, and Malini are 3 amazing examples of just who empowered girls can be, and that we are called to bear witness to them. So over the past 25 years, Lutheran Partners in Global Ministry has always listened and responded and bared witness to our global neighbors like these 3. Education has always been deeply a part of this organization and who we are called to be in the world. And so whether we're now responding to young Kekchi Maya women in Guatemala who are facing deforestation in their communities, who need to learn about how to protect their environment and grow nutritious food that will help protect them and their families, and continue to get an education to pursue their passions in life. We empower them as well through that education. or Maasai women in Tanzania who need a safe house where they can stay if they are afraid that if they go home that their parents will force them into an early marriage, and also provide safe schools where we are educating entire communities about what, I'm sorry, about issues of violence against women, issues of educating women and creating safe communities where all women can be empowered, or vocational training and livelihoods at places like the Timothy Center. Now, Bethel was instrumental in helping to get the Timothy Center in India built and going. You all, it is something that we continue to support, and there are women and children who are learning tailoring and carpentry and other amazing skills that will help empower them for generations to come as well in Tiruvannamalai, India. And I just want to return to this because it is so central to who we are as people of faith and as an organization, that everything we do begins with listening. It's the center of who we are and what we do. And we are called then to respond to the voices that we have heard and to bear witness. And both responding and bear witness always circle back to listening as well. And so I just want to end by just saying, especially in a year like 2020, with the pandemic that we have faced globally, the pandemic has affected every program and country where we work. In India, the schools have been closed across the country since April. We have been able to respond, to listen to the schools, to listen to the Arcot Lutheran Church and our other partners in India and in Guatemala and Tanzania and elsewhere, to hear what they need in this time and to provide support with our response. We are supporting, as you will see in the alternative gift fair packets, we have been supporting food distributions with dry food rations. We've been supporting outdoor socially distanced education clusters where volunteers and teachers and caretakers from the boarding schools are going out to villages and doing outdoor distanced education. That can never replace what a student would get in a full-time school, but does provide them with some education in this crazy year. For a long time, India looked like it was going to surpass the United States in terms of COVID-19 rates. For a long time, it was third in the nation. And maybe 5 to 6 weeks ago, that actually started to decline. And we're hopeful that as vaccines are more readily available and come out, and as social distancing continues to do its work, and people in India have been extremely careful with this as well, that we will be able to be ready to hit the ground running when students can return to their schools. And then, as part of our witness and bearing witness to the stories of others, I think it is extremely important this year, as race has been at the top of conversations in the United States, to talk about how the caste system in India also has parallels to race in the United States. You may see that there's a really great book on Oprah's book club right now that I highly recommend checking out, called Caste, by a woman named Isabel Wilkerson. And Ms. Wilkerson talks about the caste system in India as a parallel to the American caste system of race. I have continued conversation with Indian pastors, Dalit pastors, about what it is that the life and teaching and death and resurrection of Jesus means to them as Dalit people, and how they feel called to share that witness. And I think that as we continue, as LPGM continues to live in this world, that we need to hear their voices, this partnership is not just us giving money or just educating girls, but it's being educated and changed ourselves so that we may be witnesses to a better world, a more hopeful world. We in 2020, we can't deny that there's dead earth and suffering. This phrase, "out of the dead earth rises the green shoot," was something that Tim Olson had written in one of his journals, or had written actually at the death of his grandmother, about the faith and the life that comes out of tragedy. We can't deny dead earth. We can't deny suffering. It's there and we can't pretend otherwise. But still, in this Advent season, as we approach Christmas, we find hope rising out of the earth in Emmanuel and God with us. And I am grateful that you are part of that, along with the entire global community of Lutheran Partners in Global Ministry. So thank you for having me this morning. And it is just so great to share this with you.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's such a pleasure to have you here. It's always a pleasure to interact with you and to have you be a part of the Bethel community, or in particular, personally, in my family's lives. We absolutely love connecting with you, Dan. So thank you so much for being here with us. As a couple things I want to comment on. Well, first of all, thank you. That was just well-told story. I think it gave a really great picture of what LPGM has been doing. So thank you for being able to do that in a short amount of time. I wanted to mention the Timothy Center in Tiruvannamala. That was named officially after my brother Tim, but it wasn't something that my parents named. It was the people of India, of Tiruvannamala, wanted to name the center the Timothy Center, partly for the sake of trying to see if LPGM would help to fund it. But I think it's pretty special that there's this community center that I believe is both near the area where the destitute women are weaving, creating these beautiful weavings, but it's also where a lot of the gypsy children are coming to go to school, and where there is a wonderful classroom, a number of classrooms that teach sewing to many women, seamstress work, as well as the fixing of electronics. So that center is doing some really great work in Tiruvannamala. Jesus hung out with those in need. He came to give new breath and new life to the poor. And he is meant to be our model. That was his mission. And so to continue to reset ourselves in our comfortable culture of living, to remind ourselves, especially at this time of year, to continue to do what we can to breathe new life into those who are in need, is certainly something we want to continue to encourage.
I asked Dan a question.
Yes.
Dan, your story, no, I can't remember her name, of the girl who went home and had her parents had arranged for marriage. Do you know what percentage of girls that go home during break don't return? And if there's anything that LPGM is trying to do about that, or that they are able to do about that, to ensure that those kids come back after break?
Yeah, I don't have a exact percentage off the top of my head. It obviously gets a little bit higher as girls get older, but it's still pretty low. So I think there is enough support from the schools, and particularly because of sponsorship. Parents aren't having to pay tuition or the costs associated with school. And so it really does help immensely to just have that extra support. And I know the boarding home managers in particular and the staff at the schools, like Pastor Jane Anita, is a fantastic example at Siloam, working with 700 girls. She is constantly telling them how important school is for their lives and witnessing to that, encouraging their families, and showing how powerful that can be. Malini, the young woman who came back at age 25 to talk to the girls, that's just another great example of sort of the community support that there is for helping people come back. It does happen that people don't come back, but we try to provide as much support so that happens as little as possible.
Yeah, great. Well, I've
Can I
seen it
make one-
firsthand how well they're taken care of at the boarding schools, and there's very happy children there.
Absolutely.
As I've
And if
been
I may make one little plug. For those of you who are sponsors currently or are interested in being a sponsor, we did just recently in the last few weeks roll out a new online platform where you can now log in and see your sponsored students, read a little bit about their boarding home, and about what their favorite activity or school subject is, get updates directly from them there. So I really encourage you to go to our website and check that out, so you can keep in touch and write to your sponsored student, even just send them a quick message online. They will get back to you. If it's a little bit slower right now because the students aren't in the boarding homes, but we will do everything we can to get in touch with them and have them respond to you as well. So just a quick plug on that.
And we should also mention that if you're interested in sponsoring a child, you would go ahead and do what you do with any of the other projects through alternative giving this year. Go ahead and send that $30 or that $360 for sponsorship, and then LPGM will be in touch with you in order to connect you with a child. So you will hear back from LPGM if you choose that project. And so please know that there will be a connection made there after the fact. So, well, thank you so much, so much for joining us, Dan. And are there any other questions that anyone has for Dan today? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say hello. My name is Bethany, and I work with Dan at LPGM. I'm the newest staff member, team of 4. So it's really amazing what God is doing with such a few number of people. And but I'm just excited to join the team. I just started a few weeks ago, and I am just appreciative for congregations and individuals like you who really have a heart for these people and these children. It truly is making a difference. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
And this is Gordy, and I just wanted to thank Dan for this presentation. It's nice to meet you, Bethany, first time.
Nice to meet you.
And this is the first time I think I've just been able to sit here and listen and not say a word. So I'm sorry I said a word now, but I just thank you. It's really nice to have somebody carrying the torch and doing such a good job with LPGM. So thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. So, all right. So what we're going to do now is something special to finish our day or morning together. I'm going to share my screen one more time. I keep losing my presentation. Sorry. See if I can locate it again here. Okay. So Mac, we're going to hand this off to you, and actually maybe I'll just stop screen sharing because I think we're just going to let you talk. If you want me to share the sculpture at all, let me know. Otherwise, it's all yours. There he is.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Dan, ever so much. What a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And it alerted me to something that even makes me feel more privileged to be part of this presentation. When the #1 cause of death in India is childbirth, what we are looking at is an image that I say is of Mother Teresa, or now Saint Teresa. And when she got the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, I made a tiny little model that someday I would move into clay. And so this is the clay model now that you see Saint Teresa in massive arms and legs, breathing, squeezing life into an infant that is dead or needing resurrection. Okay. She is very diminutive, so this is not an accurate portrayal of Saint Teresa. We did have a chance in Kolkata once upon a time to visit one of the missions. There are over 600 missions around the world and thousands of volunteers. It has grown exponentially. But we were to have a greeting from Mother Teresa in the courtyard, and we were waiting, and she walked through the courtyard, and because she had been ill, she was unable to speak to us, but she was surrounded by people who were at least half again as tall as she is, or was, and it's amazing what a diminutive stature can create such a magnificent institution, and it's in India. And I would like to quote for you the poetry that I wrote to go along with this, and it was set to music for the St. Olaf band some years ago. And I have to say that when a composer sets the poetry that I write to music, it goes way beyond the realm that I can reach on my own. I'm just so thrilled that this happens from time to time, and to be in collaboration with young composers is another one of these delights of life. So I will proceed. The title of this is Try to Praise the Mutilated World. Now, this is a title for a poem written by the living Polish poet Adam Zajewski in response to 9/11 in New York City. And I came across it, and it fit so perfectly what I wanted to write. So each stanza is prefaced by try to praise the mutilated world. Now, what I'm going to suggest is that when I give you the cue, you all say, try to praise the mutilated world. So if you want to be unmuted, and I really need your response, but first I want to practice. The title is Try to Praise the Mutilated World.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
Okay, that was really weak. We need to rehearse one more time. Try to praise the mutilated world.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
Oh, you're good. And you can shout, nobody is listening, but all right. So we'll see it.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
Wherever you meet it, in all the places you walk, with those who suffer, who cannot help themselves, that they remain in your alertness forevermore.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
In the crumbling structures that myriad poor call home, they are squeezing life into their dying, trying to reach sundown with just one morsel of food on their tongues. Try to
praise the mutilated world.
Embed in your hearts the bitterness of women and their children held captive by abuse with no sense of seeing beyond human harm.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
Probe the shattered psyche of the suicide killer, mindless of injury or age and heartless for the innocent. Sift through the desert sands of war, where armies dump their mutilated dead, no breath, no voice, to claim their futile glory. Very loud.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
Care for the sick and the dispossessed, until your knees fall and your arms want only to lie down. Then raise them up to proclaim the advent of a Christ child who promises to grow up and die for us each spring. Pride,
Try to praise the mutilated world.
every day is a challenge to meet without hesitation the mutilated world, to keep our wholeness inside our inner hearth, our sheltered home, because flying devils of not mercy are invading our collective will.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
Each day we are thankful for the gifts from the world around us, of the food beside us, the friends before us, the love among us, and the prayers that we make to pledge we will always be together in spirit, never too far from holding hands. Try to
praise the mutilated world.
Our vision of humanity with its triumphs and its tragedies lets the mutilated heal because we believe in that world and in healing that world far beyond our single human soul measure.
Try to praise the mutilated world.
Peace be with you. Amen.
Thank you so much, Mac.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you being with us this morning. I see everyone in the chat who has asked for a book. We will be in touch with you. If you are not a Bethel member, be sure to put your phone number in the chat so we know how to get in touch with you. Otherwise, we will find you and get in touch with you about receiving that book soon. So
I think, Arna, what I will do for those, I've got everyone's name written down that requested a book. I think it'll be fine. And maybe Barb, you can tell me if this is a good idea or not. But the alternative giving table in the vestibule, I'm just going to put a box under that, and I will put the books in the box, and I'll put a Post-it note with your name on the book. So you can just go and grab the book from under there. So it should be, do you think that's fine, Barb?
Yes, that'll work great.
It'll just be an undesignated box. It'll just be under there, and just look for your book with your name on it. And Myrna, I'll be sure to save some for the library, also for the Bethel Library. So, and I should be able to have those out there by tomorrow. So if you want to pick those up tomorrow.
I think, Amy, sorry to interrupt, but maybe if there's somebody who doesn't have access to be able to do that, you can set up another arrangement for them.
Absolutely. So if you think that's not going to work, just leave,
and send an email.
Send me an email, and I will put my email in the chat.
And you also will notice that it's on the back of the booklet if you have a copy of the booklet, or you can look at it online.
Yes.
So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. It was a delight to have you here with us. Mac, thank you for sharing your amazing poetry and your sculpture with us. That was a powerful interactive experience. Thank you for allowing us to have you here and to share that gift with us today. Dan, thanks again, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.